right. So you sent over this guide all about moisturizing and sealing for natural hair.
Yeah.
And honestly, just skimming through it, I already learned a thing or two. I think this is going to be a good one.
It's a classic for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, it really is. Mastering moisture, it's like the foundation
Yeah.
of a good hair journey.
Exactly. And the guide, it kind of jumps right into these like core concepts, moisturizing and sealing. I feel like, I mean, I get the general idea,
Yeah.
but maybe we should, for anyone just starting out, maybe we should break it down.
Absolutely. Yeah. So like at its most basic,
Yeah.
moisturizing is all about, how do we get that hydration
Mhm.
into the hair shaft? And
Yeah.
then sealing is like, okay, so we got that moisture in there.
Yeah.
How do we keep it there? How do we lock it in to make sure those strands are happy?
It makes sense. And I love this guide. It really emphasizes that water.
Yes.
Water's like the ultimate moisturizer.
It is.
It even called it the Holy Grail at one point, which I thought was kind of funny.
But it's true, though.
Yeah.
So many people, they get caught up with all the oils and the creams and all of that.
Yeah.
And they forget about water.
Right.
Which is like, it's what really does the heavy lifting.
Yep.
It plumps up the hair. It gives it that flexibility, that strength.
I will admit I was totally guilty of that. For a long time, I was like, oh, just slather on the oils, we're good.
Yeah.
But reading this was kind of an eye-opener, honestly.
It's a super common thing.
Yeah.
But like, imagine this. Your hair strands are like tiny little tubes, right?
Okay.
Water fills them up,
Mm-hmm.
makes them bouncy, less likely to break.
Yeah.
But without that water, they're like dry twigs, just snap.
Okay. That's a great visual. I'm not going to forget that.
Good.
So we got to make sure the hair is hydrated with water first.
Yes.
But then how do we, what's the best way to seal in all that goodness?
That is where the oils and the butters come
Excellent.
into play.
Right.
They're like that protective barrier over the hair shaft so that moisture doesn't escape.
So it's almost like sealing a leaky roof.
Exactly.
You need that water-resistant layer to keep everything underneath nice and dry.
Exactly. But the type of sealant that you use, that depends on your hair's porosity.
Right.
Which is basically how easily your hair absorbs and holds on to that moisture.
Porosity, yes. This guide spends
The big
a
words.
good chunk of time on this.
Yeah.
And for good reason.
Yeah.
It feels like once you figure out your porosity, then a lot of other things kind of click into place.
Absolutely. It's like unlocking the code to your hair,
Right.
So for instance, somebody with like low porosity hair,
Yeah.
where those cuticles are really tightly packed together,
Mm-hmm.
they might find that if they put on like a really heavy oil,
Yeah.
it just kind of sits on top of their hair and makes it greasy. So they're probably going to want to go with like a lighter oil,
Okay.
maybe something like argan oil or jojoba oil.
And then on the flip side, high porosity hair, all those cuticles are open.
Yes.
They need something richer to keep that moisture from escaping, like thick shea butters or castor oil.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's all about finding the right sealant for your hair's needs.
Right.
But knowing your porosity, it goes beyond just the oils.
Yeah.
It really affects how you use pretty much all of your products.
Right.
Especially when we start talking about the LOC and LCO methods.
Okay, now I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
I kept seeing these acronyms all over the guide, and I have to admit, I was like, okay, I'm not totally sure what this means.
They sound like very official
Yes.
and technical,
Yeah.
but they're actually pretty straightforward.
Okay.
So LOC, that stands for liquid, oil, cream.
Okay.
And LCO, you guessed it, liquid, cream, oil.
Okay, so it's just the order you apply the products in
It's just two different ways. Got it.
to layer those moisturizing and sealing products.
Okay, so how do you know which one to use?
Well, that's where your friend porosity comes back in.
Okay.
So the guide, it suggests that if you have low porosity hair, the LOC method might be a good one to try.
Okay.
So starting with the liquid,
Right.
then sealing with an oil, and then locking it all in with a cream
Okay.
can actually help those products to penetrate better.
Got it.
And then for those with high porosity hair who are,
Yeah.
constantly fighting that moisture loss,
Yeah.
the LCO might be the way to go.
Okay.
So cream first to really get that hydration in,
Okay.
and then oil to lock it all in.
This is where I get overwhelmed, though. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay,
so many options.
there are so many products and so many methods.
It's a lot.
It feels like information overload, you know?
Mhm.
The guide does mention a few common mistakes people make
Oh, yes.
when it comes to moisturizing and sealing, which I think is helpful. Definitely.
So one of the big ones is thinking that oils are enough
Oh, yeah.
to moisturize the hair.
You can't skip the water.
Yeah, skip the water altogether. Just slather on the oils.
Yeah, you're just setting yourself up for dryness.
Yeah. Like we said, water's the foundation. Right?
Yes, it is.
And then, of course, there's the, using way too much product,
Oh, yeah.
which the guide says can lead to buildup and weigh down the hair.
Less is more.
Been there, done that, for sure.
For sure.
And this actually ties into another point that the guide makes, which is taking care of your scalp.
It's all connected.
Right. The guide says a healthy scalp is crucial for overall hair health.
Yes.
So like scalp scrubs, scalp oils, and even just being gentle when you detangle.
Yes.
All of that can contribute to a happy, hydrated scalp.
100%.
Right. It's all connected.
It's all connected.
Healthy scalp means healthy hair follicles.
Yeah.
Which means stronger, more resilient hair.
Yeah.
That can hold on to that moisture.
Yes.
Okay, so we've talked about the basics of moisturizing and sealing. Importance of water. I can't stress that enough.
Water is life.
LOC and LCO methods.
Yes.
And how porosity plays a role in all of it.
Yeah.
But what about those days between washes
Right.
where our hair starts feeling a little, parched?
Right. That's where those like little maintenance habits can make a really big difference.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about specific tips in the next part.
Great.
But the guide emphasizes things like refreshing your hair with like a water-based spritz,
Right.
protecting it at night, and just avoiding over-manipulation in general.
Got it.
Those are all key.
Great. Those sound like great everyday tips to add to the routine.
Yeah.
I'm already feeling more confident about my dryness issues.
Good.
So I'm excited to hear what else the guide recommends.
Yeah, there's a lot more to unpack.
Yeah.
Specific product recommendations, we'll get into more techniques. But I'm curious, what stood out to you so far? What are you like most excited to try?
Honestly,
Yeah.
just the reminder about water being the foundation of everything.
Yeah,
That's been a game changer for me.
that's a big one.
I'm definitely going to be more mindful about starting with hydrated hair
Yes.
before I reach for any of the oils or creams.
That's a great takeaway.
Yeah.
It's those small shifts
Yes.
in our routines
Right.
that can often make like the biggest difference.
Yeah.
But before we jump ahead, let's take a quick pause.
Okay.
And we'll come back to those specific product recommendations in part 2.
Sounds good.
Welcome back. Ready to get into some product recommendations.
Yes, this is the part I always get excited about.
Me too, me too.
The guide, it actually has a whole section on like recommended moisturizers and sealants.
Yeah, it's a really good list.
Yeah.
It covers a range of like price points,
Yes.
hair types.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, definitely. Let's start with moisturizers. So remember, we're looking for water-based products here.
Yes, water first.
What caught your eye in the guide?
Well, one that I always like to recommend is the Miele Organics
Oh,
pomegranate and honey leave-in conditioner.
yes.
It's like super popular in the natural hair community.
I've heard great things.
And for good reason. It's like it's so hydrating.
Yeah.
And it has amazing slip, which is, a lifesaver for detangling.
Detangling is a whole other beast.
It is. It is.
The guide also mentions the She Moisture Curl Enhancing Smoothie,
Oh, yeah, that's a classic.
which is like another classic for a reason.
Yeah, it's a good all-around moisturizer.
Yeah.
Helps to define those curls, give them that moisture without weighing them down.
Okay, see, this is where I get like decision paralysis.
Yeah.
There are so many good options.
There's many options.
I'm like,
I know.
But the guide, I will say, does do a good job of breaking things down
yeah.
by like hair type, porosity,
Mhm.
which is super helpful.
Yeah, and speaking of porosity, we can't forget about sealants.
Right.
So just a reminder, low porosity hair, we're looking at those lighter oils like argan, jojoba.
Yeah.
High porosity hair can handle those richer butters.
Right.
Shea butter, mango butter.
I actually learned a new one from the guide,
Oh,
grapeseed oil.
okay.
Apparently it's like a great lightweight option for low porosity hair
Interesting.
because it absorbs quickly, doesn't leave that greasy residue.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried that one?
I haven't, but now I'm intrigued. I'm going to have to try it.
Yeah.
I love discovering new oils. Reminds me of that time I actually,
Oh.
you know what? That's a story for another deep dive.
Okay, we'll save that one.
Yes, we'll save that.
But okay, back to sealants. The guide, it mentions that, even within like
Yeah.
a porosity category, there's still room for experimentation.
100%.
Like someone with low porosity hair might find that like coconut oil works for them, even though it's like technically a heavier oil.
Exactly. It's all about, listening to your hair.
Right.
What works for one person might not work for another, even if they have like a similar hair type.
Right. So true. It's a journey, not a destination.
It is.
Speaking of the journey, the guide also touches on, techniques beyond just LOC and LCO.
Yeah.
Remember those acronyms?
Of course. Liquid oil, cream, liquid cream oil. It's a lot to remember.
It's like a whole new language sometimes.
Yeah, it really is.
But it does talk about, like things like the baggy method.
Oh, yeah, the baggy method.
You ever heard of that one?
Yes, I have. So it's basically, like a deep conditioning treatment.
Okay.
Where you put a plastic cap on your hair to create kind of that warm, humid environment. Yeah. Helps the conditioner to penetrate better.
The guide, it recommends it specifically for like people with low porosity hair who have trouble getting moisture into their strands.
Yeah, it's like a little DIY spa treatment for your hair.
I love that.
It is.
But yeah, it's those little extra steps that can really like make a difference.
They do. But at the end of the day, I think the most important takeaway is that consistency is key.
Totally agree.
You can have the best products in the world,
yeah,
but if you're not using them regularly
right,
and being gentle with your hair, you're not going to see those results.
It's about building those healthy habits and making hair care part of your self-care routine.
Yes. Love that.
I think the guy does a good job of emphasizing that, hair care isn't just about products and techniques.
It's bigger than that.
It talks about diet, hydration, stress management.
It's all connected.
But overall hair health.
Absolutely. What you put into your body is reflected on the outside.
Yeah.
And that includes your hair.
So true. You can't just slather on products and expect miracles.
You can't.
Got to nourish your hair from the inside out.
100%. It's a holistic approach.
Yes, I love that.
So before we get too deep into like wellness philosophies, I'm curious, what specific product or technique are you most excited to try based on what we've talked about?
That's a tough one. I think I'm going to experiment with the grapeseed oil.
Okay.
My hair's definitely on the lower porosity side. So I'm always looking for, lightweight options that won't weigh it down.
Makes sense.
What about you?
That baggy method has always intrigued me.
Yeah.
I think I might give that a try next wash day.
Ooh, good choice.
See if it makes a difference.
Yeah, let me know how it goes.
I will.
But before we wrap up this part,
okay,
the guide has a whole section on like common myths.
Oh, yes.
And misconceptions about natural hair care.
Love a good myth-busting session. Tackle those next. Let's do it. It's always important to have, the right information so we can make good decisions about our hair.
Okay, so ready to bust some myths.
Let's do it.
This section of the guide is always so interesting. It's amazing how many misconceptions are out there about natural hair.
So many, yeah. Right. It's like everyone has an opinion or a theory or something.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So the guide, it tackles a few big ones.
Okay.
Right off the bat. The first one is the belief that oil is a moisturizer.
Yeah.
I know we touched on this earlier, but
it's worth repeating.
It's worth repeating.
Yeah, it's one of the most common things I hear from clients, that think, oh, I'm putting all this oil on my hair, it must be moisturized. Right. But oils and butters, they're great for sealing.
Yeah. But
they don't actually add that hydration.
Right, they can't replace water.
Exactly.
It's like trying to paint a dry, cracked wall.
Ooh, good analogy.
Right, you got to add the moisture first, the water.
Or surface.
Yeah, and then you can seal it in.
Exactly.
Another myth that the guide debunks is the idea that thicker products are always better.
More is better, right.
Right. Like, I feel like we've all fallen into that trap.
We've all been there.
At some point.
Especially when you're first starting out.
Yeah. Yes, you think, oh, if a little is good, a lot must be amazing.
Yeah, and then you end up with, like, product buildup and your hair's still dry.
Right, exactly.
It's all about remembering that porosity, like we talked about, someone with low porosity hair.
Yeah.
Those thick, creamy products, they're just going to sit there.
Right.
Create buildup, block the moisture from getting in.
And then their hair ends up dry and brittle.
Yeah, even though they're using all these products.
Right. It's a vicious cycle.
It is.
Speaking of techniques, the guide also addresses the myth that you have to do, like all these elaborate routines to have healthy hair.
Oh, yes.
Like those 10-step regimens.
The 10-step, the 20-step. I've seen them all. It's so intimidating, especially for, like, beginners.
It is. It is. And the guide makes a good point. Sometimes simple is better.
Yes. It's about finding what works for you.
Yeah.
And your lifestyle.
And your lifestyle. Exactly.
You don't need a whole shelf full of products to have healthy hair.
You really don't. Sometimes it's just about consistency, focusing on those basics like we talked about.
Right. Moisturizing, sealing.
Yep.
Those are the key things.
You can get really far with just that.
Yeah. And I think this kind of leads into a bigger point that the guide emphasizes, which is that healthy hair is a journey, not a destination.
I love that. It's so true. You know, there's no quick fix. There's no magic product. It's a process.
It's about consistency, patience, paying attention to your hair's needs.
And honestly, I think that's part of what makes it so rewarding.
I agree. There's like a sense of satisfaction that comes from like learning about your hair, experimenting, seeing those gradual improvements over time. Yep. Absolutely.
It's like you're building a relationship with your hair. You get to know it. You get to know what it loves, what it doesn't like.
Yeah, what it responds to.
And over time, you develop a routine that helps it thrive.
Beautifully said. And, you know, this journey, it's not just about external care.
Right.
It's also about internal wellness. You know, the guide touches on the importance of diet, hydration, stress management.
Also crucial.
Which are also crucial, for healthy hair growth.
What you put into your body, it reflects on the outside.
It does.
And that includes your hair.
Yes.
Making sure you're eating nutrient-rich foods, drinking enough water, managing stress.
It all makes a difference.
It can make a world of difference.
It's a holistic approach.
Right.
You know, it's recognizing that our mind, our body, and our hair are all connected.
So well said. I feel like we've covered so much ground in this deep dive. We talked about the science of moisturizing and sealing, explored product recommendations, techniques, debunked some common myths,
busted those myths wide open,
and even touched on the importance of overall well-being for healthy hair.
It's been a journey.
It has.
I hope our listeners are feeling informed and empowered to continue on their hair care adventures.
Me too. And remember, there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
There isn't.
Embrace the journey, experiment. Most importantly, listen to your hair.
It will tell you what it needs.
It will, you know, pay attention, make adjustments along the way.
And don't forget to have fun with it.
Yes.
You know, hair care, it should be a form of self-care.
Yeah.
Not a chore.
Totally.
So, you know, play around with different products, try new techniques, celebrate those beautiful, unique curls.
Well said. I think on that note, it's probably time to wrap up this deep dive.
I think so, too.
It has been such a pleasure exploring this guide with you.
Likewise.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey. Until next time, happy hair days.